Our election night coverage begins now at 7 p.m. Eastern Time with our very first poll closings from Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, South Carolina, and Vermont. In Georgia, Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker will both advance to the runoff. However, Walker does win a plurality in the first round, but not a majority, which is what is needed to win the Senate election in the Peach State. However, both Walker and Warnock will defeat Libertarian Chase Oliver and advance to the second round on the 6th of December. In Indiana, Todd Young is the projected winner and defeats Thomas McDermott to win a second term in office. While in Kentucky, we have another Republican winning re-election. This time it's Rand Paul defeating Charles Booker. And in South Carolina, Tim Scott will serve another 6 years alongside Lindsey Graham, defeating Kersel Matthews and winning re-election to a second term. And finally, in Vermont, Peter Welch is the projected winner, and he will succeed Patrick Leahy, becoming only the second ever Democrat to represent Vermont in the United States Senate. And so after our very first poll closings of the night, Democrats have 37 seats, Republicans trail with 32, but we still have 31 races left to call, so there is still a whole lot of white left on the map. It's now 7:30 here on the East Coast, and we have poll closings for two very competitive elections, these being the Senate races in North Carolina and Ohio. In North Carolina, Ted Budd is the projected winner and will succeed Richard Burr to become the next United States Senator from the Tar Heel State. He defeats Sherry Beasley with a majority of the vote, a very strong finish for Republicans after the GOP barely held onto their seat in the state in 2020 when Tom Tillis was re-elected. However, this time around, Ted Budd will win a very strong majority and his first 6-year term. In Ohio, Republicans will come out on top in this race as well. J.D. Vance is the projected winner, defeating Democratic Representative Tim Ryan with a strong majority as well. A very strong finish for Vance after a very tough election cycle against Ryan. The Democratic representative will leave Congress after 20 years in the House. And so with these two victories for Republicans, they now have 34 seats, and Democrats have 37. And our map still shows a lot of white, but these races will begin to get filled in very quickly. We now hit 8 o'clock Eastern Time, which means polls are closing statewide in Alabama, Connecticut, Florida, Illinois, Maryland, Missouri, New Hampshire, Oklahoma, and Pennsylvania. We have a second special election in Oklahoma to fill the seat that will be vacated by Jim Inhofe, so that will make the 8 p.m. poll closings the largest one of the night, where we have major races in New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, and Florida that may very well determine the balance of power for the next 2 years. In Alabama, Katie Britt is the projected winner and wins her first 6-year term in the Senate, and she will succeed Richard Shelby, who has served 5 terms in the upper chamber of Congress. In Connecticut, Richard Blumenthal is the projected winner and defeats Leroy Levy to win a second term in the Senate. While in Florida, we have a major victory for Republicans as Marco Rubio is re-elected to a 3rd term representing the Sunshine State in the United States Senate. After 12 years in the Senate, Rubio will win a 3rd 6-year term that he'll serve until at least 2029, and with 54% of the vote, Marco Rubio is easily re-elected to a 3rd term as Florida continues to shift to the right, and this means that Democratic Representative Val Demings will lose her seat in Congress early next year. In Illinois, Tammy Duckworth is the projected winner and wins re-election to a 2nd term after defeating Mark Kirk in 2016. This year, she'll defeat Kathy Salvi and easily win her second 6-year term in office. Chris Van Hollen will also return to the Senate in the state of Maryland. Chris Van Hollen easily wins re-election to a 2nd term as well. In Missouri, Eric Schmidt is the projected winner and will win his first 6-year term in office. He'll succeed Roy Blunt, who will retire after 2 terms in the upper chamber, and so Eric Schmidt, defeating Trudy Bush Valentine, wins his first Senate term. While in New Hampshire, Maggie Hassan is the apparent winner. We can project that she is in all likelihood going to win her re-election to a 2nd term in office after winning her first in 2016. Maggie Hassan, with a very narrow plurality of the vote, will defeat Dawn Bolduc and be re-elected to a second 6-year term that she'll serve until at least 2029. This is a major victory for Democrats, as Hassan was one of the most vulnerable incumbents running for re-election. In Oklahoma, James Lankford is the projected winner and will win re-election to a 2nd term, defeating Madison Horn. while in the Oklahoma Senate special election, Markwayne Mullin, a current member of the House, will win his first 6-year term, defeating Kendra Horn. And in Pennsylvania, this is a major projection that we have to make. Mehmet Oz is the winner. He defeats John Fetterman to win his first term in the upper chamber of Congress with a very narrow plurality. Mehmet Oz will defeat Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman with 49.7% of the vote to Fetterman's 48%. A 92,000 vote difference will separate the candidates in the Pennsylvania Senate election. This is a major victory for Republicans as they hold on to the seat that Pat Toomey will be vacating. And so at this hour, Democrats have 41 Senate seats, Republicans are catching up with 40, and we still have 19 seats that are currently undecided. And so here it is on the map. Most states are starting to be filled in on the East Coast, while there is still a whole ton of white out in the West. The time is now 8:30 p.m., which means we're just 30 minutes away from our second major poll closing, that being at 9 p.m. But at this hour, we have a poll closing from Arkansas. And in the state of Arkansas, John Boozman will win re-election to a second term in office. John Boozman is re-elected in Arkansas, and this will give Republicans their 41st seat, which means now Democrats and Republicans are tied at this hour with 18 races that are still undecided. And on our map here, you can see Arkansas boosting up Republicans ever so slightly. We've now got major projections to make as it is at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, which means polls are closing in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, New York, North and South Dakota, and Wisconsin. This is the second largest poll closing of the night, with major races that will be called in Arizona, Colorado, and Wisconsin. In Arizona, we can project that Blake Masters is the apparent winner. This will be the first flip of the night, but it does look like Blake Masters will defeat Mark Kelly to win his first 6-year term. This is a major victory for Republicans, and of course, the very first flip we've seen so far. Mark Kelly has lost his re-election with just 49% of the vote, with Blake Masters with 49.4%, has won enough votes to secure a victory. Just 12,000 votes separate Masters and Kelly, and so Mark Kelly, who won the 2020 special election, will now lose re-election to his first full term. While in Colorado, Michael Bennet is the projected winner. Even though Democrats fell short in Arizona, they will hold onto their seat in Colorado. Michael Bennet will win his third full term in office. First appointed back in 2009, Michael Bennet will now win re-election a third time. Joe Dea, 44.5, Michael Bennet, 51.7, a 207,000 vote difference. Michael Bennet will easily win re-election in Colorado. In the state of Iowa, Chuck Grassley is the projected winner and will fend off a strong challenge from Democrat Michael Franken, a former Navy Vice Admiral. And so Chuck Grassley will now win his 8th term, and after Patrick Leahy leaves Congress next year, Grassley will be the senior-most member of the entire United States Congress. In Kansas, Jerry Moran is the projected winner. Even though we have a very competitive governor election in the state, the Senate race isn't going to be close. Jerry Moran easily wins re-election. And in Louisiana, John Kennedy is the projected winner and wins re-election to a second term outright with a majority of the vote and avoids a runoff. In the Empire State of New York, Chuck Schumer is the projected winner and wins re-election to a 5th term in office, although he may struggle to win re-election as the majority leader, as it does look like Republicans have a good chance at taking back the majority, and so it may very well end up being that Chuck Schumer loses power after just a 2-year stint. However, in a Senate race, Chuck Schumer will easily win his 5th term, and he is doing much better right now than Kathy Hochul, who is struggling to win re-election as governor. In North Dakota, John Hoeven will win re-election to a 3rd term in the Senate, representing his home state of North Dakota. And same goes for John Thune in South Dakota, but he will win his 4th term and will return to Washington, representing South Dakota for another 6 years. Ron Johnson will also be returning to Washington as he defeats Mandela Barnes to win his 3rd term in the Senate, even though he pledged to not run for a 3rd time after his victory in 2016. And despite breaking this promise, Ron Johnson is still easily the winner in Wisconsin with 53.5% of the vote, defeating Mandela Barnes by over 200,000 votes. In the end, the Democratic lieutenant governor didn't really come too close to defeating Ron Johnson, who wins pretty comfortably in a state that Joe Biden carried in the 2020 presidential election. And so with that flip in Arizona, Republicans now have one pickup, while Democrats are yet to take a single Republican-held seat. And so at this hour, Republicans have 48 seats. They've now taken the lead. Democrats trail with 43, and we still have 9 races left. And when looking at the map, most of the elections we have left are going to be on the West Coast, but we also do have a crucial runoff election in the Peach State of Georgia. We're now just 2 hours away from midnight here on the East Coast. It's 10 p.m., and polls are closing in the neighboring states of Nevada and Utah. In Nevada, we have a major projection to make as Adam Laxalt is the winner. He defeats Catherine Cortez Masto to win his first 6-year term in Congress. This is a major victory for Republicans and their second flip of the night. Adam Laxalt is the projected winner in Nevada with 49.2% of the vote. Laxalt will win the Senate seat with a plurality of the vote, defeating Masto by 38,000 votes and denying her a second term. Adam Laxalt was the failed 2018 gubernatorial candidate who lost to Steve Sisolak, but now 4 years later, he is triumphant in this year's Senate election. Adam Laxalt is the projected winner in the Silver State and will represent it in Congress until at least 2029. Meanwhile, we have another Republican victory in Utah as Mike Lee fends off a strong challenge from independent Evan McMullen, but in the end, Mike Lee will win re-election and return to Washington for another 6 years. And so Republicans now have 2 pickups in Arizona and Nevada, while Democrats don't even have a single one. And so at this hour, Republicans have gained 2 seats. They're now at 50 overall. Democrats are at 43, and so now Republicans have control of at least half of the upper chamber, and there are still 7 seats that remain to be decided. And so looking at this map, it's basically all filled in. We only have 4 West Coast states as well as Alaska and Hawaii, and then the runoff in Georgia isn't going to occur until next month. But right now, Republicans are in a very favorable position to take back the United States Senate for the second half of President Biden's first term. Polls are now finally closing along the West Coast, which means we now have poll closings in California, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. The hour is 11 p.m. Eastern Time. In California, Alex Padilla is the projected winner and wins re-election to his first full term as a member of the upper chamber. He was first appointed by Gavin Newsom just last year to fill the vacancy left by Kamala Harris, and so defeating Mark Muser tonight, Alex Padilla is elected until at least 2029. In Idaho, we have a major victory for Republicans. Mike Crapo is the projected winner, giving the GOP their 51st seat. In Oregon, Ron Wyden is the projected winner and will win his 5th term in office, defeating Joe Ray Perkins. Patty Murray will also be returning to Washington as she defeats Tiffany Smiley and wins her 5th term in office as well. First elected in 1992, after 24 years in Congress, Patty Murray will win re-election a 5th time. However, this election is closer than all the ones she's been in for the last 2 decades. Patty Murray only winning 52% of the vote in the solid blue state of Washington. Only 162,000 votes separate Murray and Smiley. This is a state that she won by 18 points in her last bid for re-election in 2016. Tiffany Smiley has put up a very strong fight, but she will come up short of defeating the incumbent Patty Murray. And so we can now project that Republicans have won control of the United States Senate. After 2 years out of power, the GOP will take back the majority with their 2 flips in Arizona and Nevada, and then their 51st seat, of course, coming from Idaho. And so at this hour, with a net gain of 2, Republicans have taken back the majority again with 51 seats. Democrats still trail at 46, and 3 races remain to be called. And so here it is on the map. We have only 3 elections left, but the races tonight that we still have are in Alaska and Hawaii, with the entirety of the continental United States already filled in. The date is now November 9th, and we have our poll closing from Hawaii here at 12 a.m. Eastern Time. In Hawaii, Brian Schatz is the projected winner and will easily win re-election to another 6-year term in the Senate. Brian Schatz will be returning to Washington, representing Hawaii for another 6 years. And so this will give Democrats their 47th state, but it isn't going to make a difference as Republicans have already won control. And so on the map, there's a little bit more blue, but again, Republicans have taken the majority with their victories in Nevada and Arizona, and of course holding on to their seats in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. It is at 1 a.m. Eastern Time, and polls are closing in the state of Alaska, the final race to see voting end. And in the state of Alaska, Lisa Murkowski is the projected winner, fending off a challenge from Kelly Tshibaka, a fellow Republican. Murkowski will win re-election to a 4th term in office, and with this victory, she'll return to Washington for another 6 years. And so this is the final race we'll be calling tonight, as Republicans have gained 2 seats that are now at 52. Democrats still remain at 47, and we have 1 race remaining in Georgia that will be decided in a runoff election next month. But Republicans have taken back control, and so at this hour, 52-47 is how the Senate will stand and how it looked like until just a little bit less than a month from today. And tonight, 35 races, Republicans have won enough to guarantee them a majority, with flips in Nevada and Arizona, while Democrats have failed to manage to flip even a single Republican-held seat. It is now 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the 6th of December, which means we can finally call the Georgia runoff election between Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock. Neither candidate won a majority on the 8th of November, and so the election will now be decided tonight. And even though Republicans have won their majority, the race in Georgia will determine how strong that majority is going to be. In Georgia, Herschel Walker is the projected winner. He is the winner of the Senate runoff election against Raphael Warnock. He defies the odds and wins his first 6-year term in Congress that he'll serve until at least 2029. With a 51.4% majority, Herschel Walker unseats Democratic incumbent Raphael Warnock after just 2 terms in office, winning the election by 106,000 votes. And so this will be the Republicans' 3rd pickup, with the other 2 being in Arizona and Nevada, while Democrats have not flipped a single previously Republican-held seat this cycle. And so at this hour, Republicans have won 53 seats, Democrats at 47. This is the final result of the 2022 Senate cycle, a net gain of 3 for the GOP, which means Republicans have taken back the majority, and Mitch McConnell will very soon be reinstalled as the majority leader. And so after the 35 elections that we had, Republican control is the final result, with GOP wins in Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia. Republicans also fended off strong Democratic challenges from Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. And with Democrats not being able to break through and win a single Republican-held seat, they came short of maintaining their majority. And so after the 2022 midterms, Democrats have lost majority of both chambers of the legislative branch, the House, and now the Senate. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure you like it down below if you enjoyed it. Comment down below which party you think will win the majority. This video was done in collaboration with US Election Analysis, and it could not have been done without his amazing graphics. So make sure you check his channel out and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.